Okay, so now we are back to our Gemara on Kuf Yud Amud Aleph, 110a. So the Gemara gave a bunch of reasons to answer the question, how is it that our sages established the mitzvah of drinking 4 cups of wine when seemingly it's a damaging practice? Right, we discussed this. It's an activity that invites negative spiritual energy that can have a negative physical consequence. And therefore, how is it possible that our sages would institute drinking something in pairs, 2 pairs of 2? And the Gemara gave a bunch of answers. Mm-hmm. So having given the answer as to why the Seder night is free of the concern, either because Leil Shemorim, Hashem guards everything on that night, or because number 2, the third bracha, which is benching, is a kosher bracha, and a kosher bracha does not join forces with the pairs to make a negative consequence. Or the last answer, which was each mitzvah, each of the 4 cups is a separate mitzvah, right? So now, having said that, the Gemara is now going to go back to the original statement, which is that a person should not do things in pairs, and analyze this whole idea to begin with. Yeah? So that's where we are. Okay. So the phrasing of the original statement was a person shouldn't drink in pairs, shouldn't eat in pairs, and shouldn't have intimacy in pairs.
Mm-hmm.
110a. Right, that was the statement. That was the way the Gemara phrased it. Don't eat in pairs, don't drink in pairs, and don't do your intimacy in pairs. It says the Gemara like this. Now, first line, 4th word. Loy. The statement was, Lo yaset tzrachav terei. A person should not do his needs. It's the Gemara's clean way of saying intimacy. In pairs. It means once, one after the other. Right? Huh?
I don't understand what's pshat.
Shouldn't have intimacy in pairs.
Pairs meaning with
2 in a row.
4 people?
No. Twice in a row. No drinking 2 cups of wine in a row. No intimacy twice in a row. Once and then twice.
Oh, wow.
Exactly.
Okay.
To which the Gemara asks, I think that's kind of implied in your little giggle, am I? Yeah. Why is it a problem to do it twice in a row? Nimlahu. When the person's done the first time, his attention to doing it again is completely diverted. That's the nature of it. Once the urge is satisfied, the urge is gone.
Right.
And if it comes back later, it's like a separate entity.
Right.
So it's not considered 2 activities in pairs. It's Gemara's question.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it brings us as an argument to the 4 cups?
Nothing to do. So again, repeat myself.
Okay.
The Gemara raised the issue of pairs because the Gemara asked, why are you doing halacha in pairs?
Right.
Having answered that question, the Gemara now goes back to the statement about how doing things in pairs.
Okay.
Nothing to do with 4 cups anymore.
Okay.
Right? We're going back to this. In other words, the Gemara introduced the statement to ask on the 4 cups. Right. Having answered the question of the 4 cups, now the Gemara is going back to that statement to analyze it. Now, again, the phrasing of the statement was, don't eat in pairs, don't drink in pairs, don't do intimacy in pairs. To which the Gemara asks, there is no such thing as intimacy in pairs.
Right.
Because when you're done one, it's over.
Right. Exactly.
Even if you have to do it again later, it's not a continuation of the first one.
Right.
So it's not considered intimacy in pairs. It's the Gemara's question. Okay. So Amar Abaye answers and says, Hachika Amar, here's actually what the statement means. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do intimacy in pairs. If you can do that, go ahead. Because it's not considered pairs, because the second activity is unrelated to the first one. Because the first one, the desire is gone. Right? When you're drinking 2 cups of wine in a row, it's one desire being expressed in pairs.
True.
But when you're drinking, when a person is doing intimacy twice, it's 2 different entities, not a pair. So Amar Abaye explains, Hachik Amar, this is what it means. And this gives us a new understanding to this issue of pairs. La yoichel trei, a person shouldn't eat in pairs. That was the opening statement. The yishtatrei, he shouldn't drink in pairs. That was the second statement. Then he says, and you shouldn't, following eating or drinking in pairs, do intimacy even once. Why is that? So in other words, the Gemara is not concerned with doing intimacy twice in a row. What the Gemara is concerned with is, you're drinking 2 cups of wine, that's a pair, which means you invited a negative spiritual energy, and now we have intimacy. Now, intimacy is considered an act that weakens the person. You're tired out afterwards,
okay.
Right? The person's weakened, and the Gemara explains that the essence of one's life literally is in the seed, right. And to produce that, it's like you expunged very deep essential energy,
right?
And therefore, it weakens the person,
right?
right? And if for dilmo chalash, lest you become weak, umisra, and it'll come to danger, because you're still under the spell of the pairs.
Right.
Oh, so now we're getting a new nuance. It doesn't mean every time you do pairs, it's going to cause damage right away.
Right.
It means right now, the way Rashbam puts it is, your mazel, the person's mazel is weakened. And when a person's mazel is weakened, the person should be scared, shouldn't do things that might invoke danger. Right? So ordinarily, a person's strong enough to be able to handle intimacy, obviously. But if you're anyways in a compromised state, and now a person has intimacy, then it's going to become a problem. It's like the halacha is, for example, that during famine, one is not allowed to have intimacy. Because to begin with, the body is weak.
Right.
And then now you do another weakening activity.
Right.
It's not going to be good. All right, that's right. Or fast, yes. So likewise here, you're in a compromised state, spiritually speaking, because of the pairs. Don't engage in activities that can cause you to further weaken yourself and thus come to damage. And if you don't have intimacy after pairs, wait till the pairs, wait some time. It doesn't give how much time, but wait some time until the spell of pairs are gone and then engage in your intimacy. So when it said don't do your intimacy, it didn't mean don't do your intimacy twice. I mean, don't do your intimacy following the 2 cups of wine or the two eatings that we just talked about. Okay. Yeah.
I guess I must have just missed it. So how does that logic apply to eating in pairs? Well, how is it pairs of eating? If
2
we're saying
steaks.
it's not, okay, you're saying not to have seconds?
Yeah.
That long?
Shouldn't be in pairs. Okay, don't worry about doing it today. We'll get to soon about whether you should be concerned about it. We're not learning halacha now. We're learning the Gemara, right? So let's leave it alone for now. Actually, okay, when we finish the Gemara, we'll get to the halacha of it.
Right.
Okay, but for now, we're learning the Gemara. This is what the Gemara says. Yeah. All right. So now the Gemara is going to do. Sorry, 2 hamburgers, 2 hot dogs, whatever, 2 anything, 2 slices of pizza.
Yeah.
Now you got to wash. Okay.
That's why you shouldn't do it in pairs.
That's a little thing. Okay. Now the Gemara is going to now discuss for about next quarter or 2/3 of a page.
You have to wait between the slice.
Doesn't get okay. How much do you have to wait between? Well, okay, we'll see. No, maybe we'll actually no. That the answer to that question we might have actually. Okay, so now, the Gemara is going to spend the next little 10 or 15 lines or so discussing this idea of pairs, and then the Gemara is going to go on to discussing other negative spiritual forces, including Shadim, which is translated often as demons. I told you why I don't like that translation, but nonetheless. Yeah. Okay, Tanur Rabbanan, our sages taught, Shoisik Aflayim, one who drinks in doubles and pairs, Domai Beroishoi, his blood is on his own head. The Gemara's language of saying, whatever comes to you next is your doing. Because you drank in pairs. You put yourself in a compromised state.
His blood is on his hand. Or
on his head. That's the expression. Domai Beroishoi. It's it. Yeah, it's the Gemara's expression, a way of saying the consequences are your own doing. Now, here comes an interesting detail. This answers kind of your question, which is going to become like the impetus for the next discussion. Amar Rabbi Huda says, hey, Masai, when are we so concerned of drinking in pairs? Bisman shaloi ra pnei hashok. Literally, if you didn't see the face of the market, meaning you didn't leave your house in between the 2 cups of wine. Aval ra pnei hashok. But if you, after cup 1, you went out to see the market and then came back to your house and that's cup 2, no problem, have 2 cups. Now here's the point here, because you made a break in it, it's no longer pairs. Same thing the Gemara said before with respect to why there's no such thing as 2 intimacies in a row. Why is there no 2 intimacies in a row? Because after intimacy number 1, it's over. It's not linked to the next one. So therefore, if you can do something to unlink cup 1 from cup 2, you've broken the pairs.
Make a new bracha.
You might even have to make a new bracha. We'll leave that alone for now, right? We learned those halachas. But when a person has to make a new bracha because you change location, you might actually have to make a new bracha. But we'll leave that alone because again, we looked at a great length, right? But as regards to the pairs issue, by leaving the room and going to the market, literally, that's the Gemara's language here, you've separated between the 2 drinkings and it's no longer pairs. Yeah, and this is going to become a little bit of a discussion going forward. Amar Ravashi says, Chazinole, L'Rav Chanina bar Bivi, I observed Chanina, son of Bivi, the kol kisa, after every cup of wine, have a nafik, he would walk out, see the face of the market, you go see the public fair, and it would come back. So, I don't know how we do fabregans, But every time you had it for breaking
So-
L'chaim, you'd run out to see the market come back for the next L'chaim, I guess.
So you could have a break in Zugos, but still maintain not a break in Brachas?
Hypothetically, yes.
It seems like this is one of those.
Again, okay, so
we
again,
don't know.
I'm not getting into the halachas details because you learned that at great length already, but it's possible to leave the room and come back and not be required to make a bracha. For example,
But still break the Zugos.
that's right. For example, you have people left behind at the table. So your intention, did you drink? You know, you're right. It would seem that that's correct.
It seems like
seems
it
like
should be consistent.
You would think you'd be
Because
consistent,
if
yeah.
you don't break it in your mind, and it should be considered a pair.
You're right. It seems like the breaking in pairs may not be linked to the breaking in brachas. So I guess you're correct, yes. Which is interesting,
How
yes.
does that work? Though?
I don't know.
How do you consider it distinct?
I can't. It's hard for me to answer that question because I don't understand the nature of the spiritual negativity
Right.
and why breaks are okay and what constitutes a break. It's hard for me to. In other words, the way Rav Ashi just. In other words, the way Rabbi Yehuda said it is that the only problem is when it's okay if you see the market in between. If you stop there, then you might have assumed, well, when you were done drinking and went off to the market and came back, it's a new drinking, right? But from the way Rav Ashi describes it, that I saw Rav Chanina would go out to the market after every drink, it sounds like it was intentional, knowing he's going to come back to have another one.
Right. No.
Right.
So it wouldn't require a new bracha.
Exactly.
But it did.
But yet somehow it
but
breaks the
did
Pedugos.
somehow, yeah.
So I can't answer that question. It's a good question. I don't know the answer to that question. Because again, I don't understand the nature of this whole spiritual negative energy. So I can't tell you why walking out and come back changes it. Right? Okay, so we'll stop over here. Because now the Gemara is going to do is the Gemara is going to go on the other issue. We said before that a person shouldn't do doubles and then have intimacy because intimacy weakens him. And then there's a concern that he's putting himself in a compromised state after having been under the spell of the Zugos. So the Gemara is going to continue with other things and other activities that a person shouldn't do. And when there's no concern of you running into a danger post your Zugos, then no problem to have Zugos because you're not doing anything compromising afterwards. That's going to become a discussion going forward as well. And then the next discussion is going to be how far do the pairs go? You can't have 12, you can't have 14, you can't have 20. Like how far do I go with this pairs issue?
Right.
That's going to be the Gemara's discussion. What's the limit? Is there a limit on how much pairs?
But
Is that an issue? Pardon?
and then it can be interesting. Let's say if you have thirds, just so you don't have pairs.
The Gemara's going to discuss that as well, where people who would keep track to make sure they're always drinking in an odd number.
Right.
The Gemara's going to discuss that.
I'll have 3 hamburgers just so I don't have 2.
The Gemara discusses people who would do that.
In a burger shop or something.
That's right. The Gemara's going to discuss all that stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Have a wonderful day and
Is that an issue, or was it?
happy Shabbos and Freilich and Chanukah.
Was that an issue in the times of in the Gemara when the bench was a Zimmer, making sure they didn't have but at 10 it was.
No, you can have an even number. You can have an even number.
Because you said one of the reasons why you guys.
Kosher bracha. But also, it doesn't talk about people congregating in Zugos.
Doesn't.
It's only consumption.
Food and drink.
Food and drink is what it's limited. We took intimacy out anyway,
We took it in the
right? So it's only food and drink. It seems like it's only intake,
Right.
not necessarily.
Not anything
yeah.
other than those two.
There's no issue with a chavrusa. Chavrusa is two people learning, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Good point.
Okay, wonderful day and
Yeah.
Freilich and Chanukah and a good Erev Shabbos.
Yeah.